Hey, it's travelgigolo. We are at Lefokeng campsite in Dinokeng in Gauteng. It's about 50 kilometers to Lefokeng campsite from Pretoria and about 120 kilometers from Johannesburg. Before we start, full disclosure, we were invited to Lefokeng to come and camp here and review the site. And as with every review that we do, it is going to be objective and it's going to be exactly what we've experienced while we are here. Remember to stay tuned till the end to see a walk through the entire camping facility. How to get here? Very easy. If you're going from Johannesburg or Pretoria, north on the N1 until you get to the Hammanskraal, turn off, go right, that is east towards Dinokeng. Now you should come through Tower Gate. Google Maps will take you through another gate, but Tower Gate is the recommended entrance to get to this camp, the easiest. Past Safari Mall, turn right onto Lefokeng, that is a dirt road, and up to Pheasant Gate, turn right in there, down the dirt road till you get to the power lines. When you see the power lines, there's a road running along the power lines, turn left, and a couple hundred meters down, you will see the gate to Lefokeng. What kind of vehicle do you need to get here? Pretty much anything. It's mostly tar road. The first bit of gravel is Lefokeng Road, which is not very long, and then there's a bit more gravel road to get to the campsite itself, but it's nothing that requires any kind of special vehicle. Yes, it's a bit corrugated on Lefokeng Road. It can get quite corrugated if they haven't graded it for a while, but it's still not something that you can't traverse with a normal city car. Trailers, of course, if you can get you with any kind of car, then you can pretty much get you with any kind of trailer as well. It does not need to be an off-road trailer. So, amenities and facilities. There's no electricity, let's just mention that off the bat. However, that's about the only thing that there isn't. There is water here, nice tap, and that tap also has a nice little solar light next to it. So in the night, if you go to the tap, then the solar light switches on, so you've got a bit of lighting there as well. That's really cool. Now, there isn't lighting in the campsite itself besides a bit of solar lighting at the tap, but there are solar lights on the roads to the ablution facility. So if you have to walk through there at night, then there is lighting. The tap is shared between a couple of campsites, so it's pretty much at the entrance to 2 or so campsites. There's a garbage bin as well. That's also shared, so that's just outside at the entrance to the campsites that it serves. There's a built braai, brick and mortar with a nice grid on it as well, and that serves as a braai stand and as a fire pit as well. We always bring our own little braai with us that travels with us everywhere because it's really convenient to have that. But there's a really nice braai facility here too, and so you can do your braai on the grid and you can also build a fire there. There's a special ash bucket as well for your ash. It's easy to clean up your ash too, especially at night. If you're going to go to bed and you want to put your ash off first or your charcoal off first, you can then chuck it in the bin if you like to, and that will stop it from blowing around. Now, depending on which site you are, the ablutions can be up to about 100 meters away. We're pretty much at about the furthest point from those ablution facilities. As I mentioned, no lights in the campsite itself, but there is lighting along the way to the ablutions. The ablutions consist of 2 men's and 2 ladies, and in each of those there is a shower, a toilet, a basin, and a mirror as well if you need a mirror. Very nicely appointed, very nicely built, very neat, very smart. In fact, the whole setup is really nicely done and really neat, and it's a pleasant place to come camping. There's hot water from a gas-fired system, and there's cold water as well. Adjacent to that is the wash-up facility, so there's a couple of basins there with cold and hot water as well, so you can go wash your dishes there, and there's a little dish rack as well that you can dry your stuff on, so that's quite nicely set up too. And although, like I said, there's no lighting in the campsite, there is lighting on the way there at night, so it's an easy walk at night. Now, there is a swimming pool, which is very important because it gets extremely hot here. It's just 120 kilometers from Johannesburg, but it always amazes me how much warmer it is on this side of Pretoria. So great pool, nice size, couple of decks to lie on, and a set of tables and chairs and benches, and also a lapa that's shaded. The pool area is a great spot to hang out. Next to that, there is a boma as well. So that really would suit a group of people if you're camping as a large group. And I think this campsite is well set up for that. So you've got a boma there, you've also got the swimming pool and a lapa, and it's a relatively large swimming pool as well. So it's really nice from a social point of view, especially if you're a number of people coming to camp here. The campsites are fairly flat. The ground here is relatively flat. It is stony, so little rocks, but it's been very nicely cleared out and it is relatively flat. It did rain on our first night here, and we didn't expect it to rain because the weather report said there was no chance of rain, but you can't trust the weather report, of course, not all the time. And we chose a position slightly on the lower side of the campsite, but we were fine still because there was no water that drained towards us of significance. So the campsites are relatively flat. Shade is difficult. The bushveld around here is mostly relatively short trees, so a lot of these combretums or combreta, and that's what you'll find in the campsites as well. So there is a bit of shade, but there aren't large shade trees. So I think shade is something that you've got to bring with you if you're particularly concerned about that. Campsites are clearly delineated, clearly labeled. They've got animal labels, not numbers, so hyena and lion, etc. We're in lion campsite, and the space between each campsite and its neighbor is probably about 20 meters. In some cases there's bush in between, so you can't see your neighbors. In some cases it's not bush in between you, but it's clearly demarcated. So it's definitely well laid out and spaced out for the most part. What can you purchase on site? You get a complimentary bag of wood. Every campsite gets one, and you can get ice as well. Now, besides that, you would have to drive a bit to Safari Mall. It's not really a mall, safari shopping place within Dinokeng Nature Reserve, where there is fuel and there's a shop and you can get most basics there. Otherwise, if you really wanted something significant, you'd probably have to drive to Hammanskraal, which is about 20 kilometers from here. There are 12 campsites altogether of slightly varying sizes. The one that we are on now is, I would say, about 30 meters by between 15 and 20 meters, so quite a good amount of space for us to camp. You could of course fit a couple more vehicles and tents here, so there is a decent amount of space on each campsite. Most of those 12 campsites are along the fence, which is great because we're in Dinokeng Game Reserve. However, there are a couple of campsites that are inside the circle as well, so those are not on the fence. Being on the fence, of course, is the premium spot to be, and we've got a really great spot here where we're on the corner, so we've got a view in two directions into the game reserve. We haven't seen a lot of wildlife. We just saw an impala now that made an alarming noise and ran through the bush, so not sure what it was being chased by. But Dinokeng Game Reserve is supposedly a Big Five game reserve. Been here many times, seen some of the Big Five, but not all of them. But there are lions and elephants and rhino, etc. within the Dinokeng Game Reserve. We did hear the lion last night, however it is a fair distance away. How to book? Either via email or by phoning directly. Details are below for your convenience, so if you're gonna book at this campsite, then just check in the description below. Campsites are pre-assigned, and I would recommend that you try and get one along the perimeter fence if you can, if you get in there early enough, because that's when obviously you can see the game in the nature reserve. Management and upkeep of the site, very good. Owner comes around a couple of times a day with ice and wood. You've got to go fetch yourself. It's just a short walk away, but the site is really clean. The bins are cleaned every morning. There's nothing that's not working that I can possibly point out. It's really good in that respect. The only thing that I might recommend that could be improved is if they build more ablution blocks, then that they separate the toilets from the showers, because as it is now, if somebody uses the bathroom, then then the whole bathroom is used. So if you've got two men's bathrooms, for example, and people are showering in both, then there isn't a toilet available. So something like that, but otherwise it's really well managed. Everything looks really good. Everything's well built, and it's been really nice from that point of view. Gate times, Dinokeng does indicate that they close their gates at 6 p.m, but I think that's for people that are doing self-drives and going through the nature reserve. We've never really had any issue getting here later than that when we are coming to camp or stay somewhere in Dinokeng. In terms of Lefokeng, this is a private campsite, so if you have to come in late, then you may be able to make arrangements directly with the owners. What to do? Swim, chill, take it easy, have a drink, enjoy being in Dinokeng. Otherwise, if you want to leave the campsite and explore, you can arrange a game drive through Dinokeng Game Reserve, or you can self-drive as well. Note, if you're going to self-drive, the camping fee doesn't cover the self-drive fees for the Dinokeng Game Reserve. So when you come in, you would have to pay those fees so you can drive yourself through the rest of the reserve. Otherwise, you can arrange game drives from here. In addition to that, there are a number of restaurants and stuff inside the Dinokeng Game Reserve that you can visit as well if you're so inclined. Besides the wildlife, there is of course pretty good birding here in this type of bushveld, as you would expect. And we've seen a pretty cool thing today. We saw a Lefokeng cuckoo. Not sure how you pronounce that. Anyway, first time seeing that, and that was really nice. So there is quite a bit of birding to be done as well. And of course, if you're going to drive around the nature reserve, then you're going to see a fair amount of birds too. More in the summertime, of course, than in the winter, which is typical of this type of bushveld. Things to note, it can get quite hot here on this northern side of Gauteng. So sunscreen and all that stuff, and stay hydrated. The campsite is fenced, so don't have to worry about lions coming to eat you at night if you're worried about that sort of thing. We are in Dinokeng Game Reserve, and there are a number of lodges and so on close by, so there can be a bit of noise at night. So sometimes you can hear some of the other lodges or people at lodges, or a little bit of music. It wasn't intrusive for us, but I think we're also kind of expecting that. We know what to expect at Dinokeng Nature Reserve. This is not an isolated national park like Namakwa, for example, or something like that. Having said that, at the campsite, the rules are that after 10, no noise. So 10 o'clock is pretty much quiet time from there onwards until you wake up in the morning with the birds, which we never do. Lots of nightjars, which don't get the memo about the quiet time apparently, but that's a nice experience too. So what type of camp is this for? With the exception of there being no electricity, anyone can get you with any vehicle. You don't need anything special to set up camp here. You can probably get through a weekend without electricity, I'm sure, if you're coming to camp and enjoy being out in nature. So pretty much anyone can camp here. Obviously, if you're coming for a longer stint, then it'd be a good idea to have some solar so that you can keep your fridge going, so you can keep your drinks cold. Quick recap, what's here? Fire pit, braai facility as well on the fire pit, so it's a fire braai setup. There is water, there is a swimming pool, very nice, it's a boma. There is a set of ablution blocks, there's wood, there's ice, there's access via game drives or self-drive to the rest of the park, assuming that you've paid for that self-drive. Wash-up facilities, hot and cold water at the ablutions and at the wash-up facilities. Cell phone signal, actually, because we're in Gauteng, and a fence around the campsite as well, so don't have to worry about leopards and lions. No monkeys, surprisingly. We haven't had any issues with monkeys. We haven't seen any monkeys. So it's quite nice to camp without having to worry about primates getting at your stuff. What is there not? No electricity, no lighting in the campsite, not a lot of shade. There's a little bit of shade, but not a lot of shade. There's no grass. This is not the type of area where you would have a lawn. It's pretty stony. It's relatively dry in this area as well. And that's pretty much it. Otherwise, there's pretty much everything here that you would need for a weekend away camping or to stay for a few days. Oh, there's also no table here. So fortunately, we've got our table with us, which packs into our vehicle. So I would recommend that you also bring a table if you have one. So would I recommend Lefokeng campsite? Yes, I absolutely would. It's really easy to get here from Joburg or Pretoria. So it's really convenient from that point of view. It's a shorter drive from Joburg or Pretoria. At the most, it's 2 hours, probably less if you leave at the right time of day and there's no traffic. It's very nicely set out, all the stuff that you require here. It's in Dinokeng Nature Reserve, so you can go out and do a self-drive. Check out my episode on Dinokeng Nature Reserve as well if you want to know a bit more about Dinokeng. And it's a nice spot. There's a great swimming pool. It'd be great, I think, for a group of people specifically, because you've got a nice large swimming pool, you've got a boma area, you've got braai facilities there as well, and the campsites are a good size too. So it's a very nice campsite, and I definitely would recommend it. Stay tuned, of course, to see the walkthrough to the campsite, which is coming now at the end of this video. So I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope you found it informative. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, leave a comment, leave a question, be glad to answer those. It's always great to hear from you guys as well. Thanks for all the encouraging comments that you put in the comments. That's really fantastic. It's nice to know that the channel is doing stuff and that people are learning from it and that they're actually doing things because they see us doing things, and that was the whole intent of the channel to start with. And until the next episode, go everywhere, see everything, have a great time.